Hello again. We are continuing our discussion on solving linear equations. We're going to talk about what to do when you have the variable or the letter on both sides of the equation. Those need to be solved as well. So just kind of stepping it up a level of difficulty. Here's what you're going to need to do. If there are any parentheses in your equation, you need to use the distributive property or associative properties to get rid of those so you have no parentheses. Do that at the very beginning. Then you need to decide which side of the equation you want the variable to be on. If it's on both sides, then really you could have the variable on one side or the other, and that's a decision you need to make. You're going to remove the variable from the other side by adding the opposite of that to both sides. We'll go over some examples to see how that looks. And then you're going to remove any constant terms that are on the same side as the variable. We've done this before with two-step equations. We're going to add the opposite of that constant to both sides. And then if there's something that the variable is still being multiplied by, we're going to divide both sides by that coefficient or that multiplier. So here's an example. I have 2x plus 5 equals negative x plus 2. So I've got two green x's representing positive x's and 5 positive 1's representing positive 5 on the left. And I've got a red negative x to represent negative x on the right, along with two positive 1's, two green 1's to represent positive 2. So that's what my equation would look like with algebra tiles. I do want my x's on the left. That's just a force of habit, but typically what you want to do is whichever side has more x's, that's where you want your x's. So what I need to do is I need to get rid of the negative x on the right. Okay? I don't have, I could subtract the negative x, but I don't have a negative x on the left to subtract as well. So what's my alternate strategy? Add a positive x, and that will cancel out with the negative x. So if I add positive x to both sides, what's going to happen is now I have 3x plus 5 on the left, and I have just those two positive 1's that are on the right. Okay, so I have 3x plus 5 equals 2. So now it's like a two-step equation, and we've done these, but let's still go through those steps. I want those 3 x's by themselves on the left, which means I need to get rid of those 5 1's. I would love to subtract 5 1's from the left, which I can, but I can't subtract 5 1's from the right because I don't have 5 1's. So I use my alternate strategy of adding negative 5 instead. So I add negative 5 to the left, I add negative 5 to the right, and so what happens is everything that's a 1 or a negative 1 goes away from the left, and now I need to figure out what I have on the right. I have two positive 1's that can pair up with two negative 1's and go away. So now I have 3x on the left, I have negative 3 on the right, so that means that 3x equals negative 3. If I divide both sides by 3, then I have x on the left, I have negative 1 on the right, so x is negative 1. So that's one example of how to do that. Just following the steps that I went through with you. Now I have 3 times x plus 1 equals x minus 1. So I've got 3 groups, each one of them has x plus 1 on the left, and I've got an x and a negative 1 on the right. So if I just expand the parentheses, that's 3x plus 3 equals negative 1. And you can see the same representation right in front of you. So I want my x's on the left because there's more of them over there. So I need to get rid of the x on the right. So what I will do is I will add negative x. I could have just as easily subtracted x. It's the same thing, and you would have gotten to the same place. So I will have 2 x's plus still those 3 1's on the left, and I will have a negative 1 on the right. That's all that's left over there. So I have 2x plus 3 equals negative 1. So now I need to get rid of the 3 1's that are on the left so that I can just have x's on the left. So I add negative 3 to both sides. Okay, so that means that the 1's and the negative 1's will go away on the left, leaving me with just 2 x's, and I will have 4 negative 1's on the right. So my equation becomes 2x equals negative 4. So now all I have to do is divide. If I divide both sides by 2, that means I will have just a single x on the left, and I will have negative 2 on the right, and so my answer is x equals negative 2. So that's how you solve equations where you've got the variable on both sides. If you have any questions, please let me know, and I will see you tomorrow.